Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Friday. Hope you're doing well. I am going to jump in and do this week's recap. This week was pretty tricky for me. Small caps have been very tough. As you may probably already know, a lot of my cash flow day trades come from shorting small caps, and we're just in a really hot small cap cycle right now. Getting lots of big runners that just are not fading cleanly, and so had quite a bit of chop in that area this week. I had some good trades in large caps. Also got chopped up in CRWV. Had a few attempts at that one and didn't really get the follow through I was looking for. And I also missed the really good short yesterday on it, which was frustrating. So just overall, a kind of a blah week for me. And so hopefully next week we'll get some better action. But let's jump into it. All right, so actually I have some trades from the week before because I didn't do a recap last week. So we'll jump into some of those right now. And this one was NVAX. They had reported earnings, and this is just a serial gap fader. Like every time this thing gaps up or makes a big run, it's usually a pretty good short. And so that was my thought process coming into this day. A big gap up, and it was struggling to get higher, right? And especially when I saw this candle, we had big volume come in, push through highs, and then immediately it got stuffed on the following candle. So I was like, all right, this looks good. I'm going to take some short here. Ended up kind of chopping around and push higher. I took a stop on part of my position as it was starting to press through again. I thought it was going to squeeze higher and through higher day here, which I would have cut the rest of my position if it did. Ended up rejecting, so I added back the position and just kind of kept chopping around. As it was squeezing, I was cutting some of the position off and then adding as it was failing back in. So I was taking a little bit of a hit here, and then it finally started to roll over where I added through this pivot low here and was starting to hold below VWAP, which is why I like to see in a failed move higher. We're back below VWAP, now we're holding, and I added through this pivot low, covered as we came through low a day. It popped up pretty hard and covered a little bit more here. My cost basis was up above VWAP, so I was still looking pretty good on it. So I took a little bit of profit off just in case this did want to pop up and reclaim VWAP. Ended up failing and was able to scale out into a really nice move lower for a point or so. Overall, it started off kind of choppy. It was back and forth, and then it ended up working. But NVAX is just a name. I see that gapping up or on the scanners and stuff, and I'm looking to trade it usually because this has been a pretty consistent, good short over the years. All right, so that was NVAX from last week. What else do we have? We had here's one of the small caps that I traded, and as you can see, it was a failed reversal. We had a nice run up. We had some good volume, and actually had some really good sell side volume too. So I started shorting it. I added on this lower high here. Was looking for more of a run back into VWAP, and so I added more here when we had some more selling, and this has kind of been the theme like this whole last couple of weeks. It's just we'll have a big run, it will hold higher, and then make another run, and hold higher and make another run. So it was kind of like very frustrating, but I did a good job cutting it pretty quickly and noticing the strength here. And I think I ended up getting out break even or maybe a little bit of a loss on it. But this has just been like the theme the last couple of weeks, but super frustrating. So this was one of them, NT and GX. We also had QBTS. The quantum names are big runs, last couple of weeks, and that's a tricky sector to trade. The price action is very tough. I had a lot of big runs. I just kept holding higher, and I got chopped up on quite a few of them. This was one I started. I had a big run in the pre-market. Started a little short into this turn, and it wanted to make another leg, so I stopped out, and then it got hit pretty good where I started jumping on the bid pretty good and added through this little pivot low here and got a decent move back lower, but of course reclaimed and ended up stopping once we got back above the 10-day. So it was a little bit of a winner, not much. Couldn't get the follow through down in the VWAP like I was hoping for, and it ended up trending higher the rest of the day. And quantum names in general made a big run last week or so. So just kind of what's been going on the last couple weeks, getting chopped. It usually took me a couple tries before I'd get any kind of profit taken, and then usually was getting reclaimed and having to stop out on the balance. So that was QBTS, and then I traded it. This was at the open, so I traded. This was the pre-market, and then at the open, I was trying to trade it as well, and got it chopped up. I was looking to short into this move here. Ended up kept going, stopped, and tried it a couple times, and then finally it rolled over and started holding below VWAP, and I was like, all right, this looks really good for another leg lower, through low days. So I started a short here, was looking to add through low days, and of course it reclaimed VWAP, and I got out pretty quick. So it definitely ended up red on the name on this day. Just very tough action. It was holding very well. So just frustrating, but that's how it was going the last couple of weeks, right? So this was QBTS. Google, I believe this was the Apple News. I can't really remember now, but anyways, it was a big sell-off, really clean linear move. I started buying some here, trimmed some off into a little pop, and then it made another leg. I was going to give it a little bit of room before stopping out completely, just to see if it was. A lot of times you'll see this in large caps. This actually happened with Tesla too. You'll get the initial leg, and it'll get a little bounce, and you'll get another leg, and then it will make the bigger bounce higher. And so I was kind of waiting to see if that would play out, and it did. And I was able to add a little bit more through 164, and then was just trimming up into the 10-day and into 165. Just for a cash flow, large caps can be a lot trickier for mean reversions. They're not usually as clean as the lower float or small cap names. So I'll take what I can get in these, and I was able to make a couple bucks for a nice little Google reversal. All right, what else do we have? This was Uber. Uber had some news out. I think it might have actually been related to Tesla. And I got a really sharp move lower, so I looked to play the bounce. This was more of a tape read. I was watching the tape and saw some buyers come in heavy, so I jumped in and scalped a couple bucks off of it. Kind of came back, acted like it wanted to break lows, ended up bouncing again, and then we got a little bit of a retest of this pivot here, which it kind of stabled off, and we started rolling over. And as I was seeing this kind of weaken up, I started shorting it with the idea that I was going to break low a day and make a nice leg lower. And that's what I ended up doing. So I added through low a day, started scaling out of some, and then it reclaimed it and started bouncing. So I cut it once it got back above the 10-day for a smaller win. But both of these were smaller wins, little cash flow trades. Couldn't really get the follow through I wanted on either side. So that was the Uber play. Tesla, this was a really good short op. I was, let's see, what day was this on 520? So that was this day here. We made this really nice leg higher and consolidated for a few days, and then it looked like it wanted to make the push higher and failed pretty hard. So this was what I was watching and shorting on that day. So coming into the afternoon, it was pushing up, and then it failed, and we had a nice strong leg lower, and we consolidated below the 10-day. And this would have been a really good entry right here. I missed this, but once I saw it make the second leg and was consolidating right just above VWAP here, I started a short position on it and added as it broke through VWAP, and was able to make some good money on this leg lower here. This was more of just a technical play on a failed breakout on the daily level, and was able to capture that move. We did get some continuation into the next day. I didn't trade that. We're kind of just back into the zone, this consolidation zone, and ended up bouncing off the 10-day. Now we moved higher, but that was just a nice play here. When we get these consolidation looks after a big move and you get a failed breakout, oftentimes these can lead to some good continuation to the short side. So nice little play here on Tesla. XPEV, they had some good earnings, and this was just a kind of a gap and go opening range breakout play as it was running through pre-market highs. So it opened up and was really strong tape. So I started buying some and then adding to it as it kept pushing, and then it just took off, had a really big push, and was trimming into this move higher. And then we had our first pullback, and I was like, all right, if this is good, this should hold the 10-day, and we should be able to make another leg higher through higher day. So, kind of an aggressive ad here, and it ended up not being able to hold and actually gave it up and started breaking through VWAP. And I was like, all right, a strong momentum name on earnings. This shouldn't be happening. This should be holding and making another leg higher. So ended up cutting the position, but did pretty well on this one for a little gap and go momentum play after earnings. All right, so that was XBEV of last week. CRWV, it's been on a really hot run the last couple of weeks, and so I was shorting it. This was this day. Actually, no, I'm sorry. This was, what day was this? 5/21. Yeah, so this was actually on this day. And just got chopped up trying to short this really strong linear move. Tried it here, stopped. Tried it here, stopped again. And at that point, I was like, I'll just let this settle. It's obviously very strong. It's holding VWAP. What I was thinking, though, is if this were to weaken up, get back below VWAP, then potentially a short setup. But as long as it was holding above, I didn't want to deal with it anymore. So I took my 2 hits on it and moved on. So that was CRWV. Tesla reversal, there was some news. I don't really remember what it was, but we had a really nice move down. And I tried it here on the turn, look for a bounce up here, ended up getting stopped out as it came back through low day. And then, like I was talking before with Google, a lot of times with these large caps, you'll get the consolidation and then the second little move lower before it makes a bigger bounce. And so I played it on the second bounce, was able to make my money back on this, and just had a little trailer left after trimming up into this move, and stopped out once it started breaking down into my break even. I just, like I was saying, on these large caps, I'll take what I can get and then move on, because oftentimes they can be a little bit trickier. But this one ended up holding. I think this was actually a higher low, and we got a little bit bigger of a bounce. But I was happy with the the little win I got on it. So, and you'll see that on almost all my reversal plays, I'm almost always looking for a turn candle. And so I was looking to play the turn here, ended up stopping, and then caught the turn on the next candle, and that one ended up working. Okay, so I actually took this right as the candle was closing, and ended up popping up and making a nice reversal. All right, so that was Tesla. Kids, this is what I normally am trading, is these small caps, these pop-ups in the pre-market or in the day, and trying to play a turn on them and getting some good cash flow. This one actually ended up making some money. I took it right here on my first one. We had the first leg and then the second leg, and it started to get rejected pretty good on some high volume, and actually failed this little pivot. So I was like, all right, I'll put some on here and then look to add if we make the turn lower. And it ended up hopping onto the next candle, breaking highs. I stopped out on that, and it ended up getting stuffed again really good. So I got right back into it, and it ended up failing, and I was pretty aggressive taking profits right into VWAP here. But this one actually did get some good follow through. Before, like you've seen in some of the other trades, it would hold VWAP and then make another leg and then do it again. And so I was just trying to take profit as I could, as it was moving in my favor. And then I had a trailer that I was just taking off as it moved into my favor. All right, so just a nice little trade here in kids. So CRWV, this was actually a decent short. This was on the 22nd, right? Yeah. So that was on this day here. You can see we're getting I wouldn't say very extended, but we're getting extended. We're getting volume expansion. We're getting price expansion on these wider candles. And this one was gapping higher, made a push, and then started to fail. Okay, so we got the push through, this little opening range break that failed pretty hard. And as soon as I saw this starting to break down, we got below VWAP, I started shorting it. And I tried to short through the lows here, but it skipped really quick and missed my order. And I didn't want to chase it too low and really mess up my cost basis. So I took some profit out, and then it started holding. This dotted line is the close from the previous day. And it started bouncing and kind of holding around here. So I was taking a little bit of profit here, Looked like it was starting to break it again, so I added back some. And then the next couple of candles, we got a little consolidation before we started getting the move lower, where I trimmed some more off into. Then we started consolidating a little bit more and put in this nice little low day break look where I added back some more, and we got a little bit of follow through and I covered some, and then it was bought up immediately, and I was like, that's not the best look, right? Like when you see something break low a day, it should keep going from there and not get rebid instantly, and that's what happened here. So I was a little bit cautious. I wasn't going to be adding as we were coming back down again and bringing my cost basis down after this big reclaim. Ended up holding the low day and reclaiming and bouncing back up where I took my stop off at once it got back above VWAP. So made a couple bucks on this. I think this was probably one of the only ones I made money on. After this, I think I tried it a few more times and got chopped up pretty good. So that was CRWV. This is some more quantum, just getting chopped up. I really like this look. You know, under normal circumstances and in a normal sector, this probably would have worked out. Had a nice, linear move that we started getting some price expansion, volume expansion, put in a nice little turn candle here, and it just held and then pushed higher, and I didn't have a hard stop in, and it just skipped very quickly up to this level, and it was like kind of caught me off guard, so I took a decent hit on this trade. And then it looked like, I was like, all right, so that was a big candle, highest volume of the day, and it looked like it was setting up for another turn, so I was like, all right, let me try this again, and of course it held higher and pushed to another high a day. It was just very frustrating when this stuff happens. So it is what it is, but in hindsight, I really like this trade. This one was kind of pushing it just because I had just gotten out of the trade and I was getting back into it, and I don't know, it just didn't seem, it seemed like I was kind of chasing this turn here or trying to be too aggressive and let things play out a little bit more. And anyway, so got chopped up a couple times in this and ended up taking a nice loss on QBTS. And quantum names are borderline on my no trade list, especially on reversals. Just really tough names to try and fade. All right, so that was QBTS. What else do we have? NVIDIA. This was on 523. They were selling off pretty good in the pre-market. And so what I was doing was buying the turn here as we were coming in to the 830 mark. I forget what the news was, but it was down pretty sharply in the pre-market, and then I took the turn on it. I actually bought it a little too soon, and then took the turn or added back to it once it started to turn. Was able to scale out some of the profit, and we started holding higher here, which I really liked, and we put in this pretty defined pivot area. So once I saw that playing through and it started to break through, I added some more to my position, scaled in as it was moving up to VWAP. Was a little, we got rejected it pretty good, and I was using this consolidation area as my stop now. So I don't know, where it was like 128.75-ish, somewhere around in there. If we would have broke down through there, I would have stopped down my position. But it ended up holding well, and we started edging up into the open, where I trimmed some more and held some into the open. And we got this pretty good sell candle, but then we immediately got bought back up. I was still using this area as my stop, so we never made it there. And then once I started, starting to get bid back up, I bought it through the high of day and got a nice move back into like the 131-ish area where I was able to trim out. And I was planning on holding some for a bigger move. I had like a third of my position that I was trailing. And I was looking, considering trying to swing it if we were able to hold strong and hold over VWAP, and it just ended up breaking down in back below VWAP, so I ended up cutting it. But it was a nice win, caught a nice turn here on NVIDIA. So that played out nicely, and I was able to capture some good ads and get some good follow through on it. All right, so that was NVIDIA. IMNN, so this was, I think must have been the end of last week. This thing's been on a huge run. Like so many names look like this right now in the small caps. Just huge legs, followed by more huge legs, and just really chopping up short traders. And that's what happened here in the pre-market, is taking the shorts, getting stopped, taking shorts, adding, getting stopped, trying again, getting stopped, trying again, and getting stopped. I overtraded this one. Usually if I have two losers in a row trying to catch a turn, I'll call it there. And this one, it just irked me, and I kept trying, and just got tore up on this one. So this was a nice fat L. Just been the theme in small caps right now. So, but yeah, like I was saying, I've really cut back on my frequency and not jumping in on the first legs, trying to let this, maybe a multi-leg runner, and then potentially looking at trading it, and then also cutting back on size and really waiting for clean turns and volume expansion and price expansion to be taking these trades. And I'm going to continue doing that, going into next week and the week after until this area starts to improve. We're just in a really hot sector right now, or a cycle with small caps. So anyways, yeah, nice solid loss on this one to start the day. This one was, I think it was gapping up. Yeah, what day was this? This was on the 28th. So this was actually, yeah, it was gapping up. So Holo is a China name. It was gapping higher. Just a known diluter. Same, similar to MLGO. Just once the dilution starts hitting in, these can just fade off pretty consistently. So this one was gapping up, was on my radar. And once I saw, we opened up above VWAP, we tested it, reclaimed it, it pushed through high, and then rejected hard. And a seller came in and brought this down very quickly, and once I saw that, I started shorting, and then it kind of chopped around before breaking low a day, where I added, and it wasn't a clean move at all, but it ended up fading where I could take some profit into. I was looking to take it into the pre-market lows here, where I was covering some, and ended up reclaiming and pushing back into my break even. Or actually, I was using this pivot here as my stop, and once it started reclaiming that lower high, I just cut it and moved on and took my win, just because it's been such a struggle in small caps. But yeah, made some money on this, so a nice little trade here. But when I'm looking for short entries, especially in these small caps, I'm always looking for a big rejection. We had the high day volume at that point there, a clear seller stepping on the bid, bringing it down. So I jumped on it. I think I could have been a little bit quicker to add as it was breaking through VWAP. But I missed that and just took it as it was breaking through the low of that candle. Okay, so that was HOLO, little fade. And then this was trading it on the next day. This is 28th. Yeah, and this one was just a little bit trickier. It was holding very well. And, I tried taking on a turn here, got stopped, got back in. I was just starting to weaken up. I was a little too aggressive on these ads. I probably could have just been covering some into 10. But I was trying to, press it and get it down, look for a bigger move back down to VWAP, and it just wasn't playing out. I think I added even more here and trying to really push it, and it just was not going. So I ended up cutting it. And sometimes, if I'm in something and it's holding for a certain amount of time and it's not doing what I think it should be doing, I'll cut my position as well. And so that's kind of what I did here. Reclaimed the 10-day, was, holding and just not giving me the look I wanted. So I ended up cutting it and taking a little bit of a loss on it. So like I was saying, just been the theme in small caps. Okay, so this was actually a pretty good trade. This was SMH. This was the chip sector after Trump announced that no more selling chips to China, and so this started coming in pretty good. And I bought it through the break of I shorted it through the low of this candle. The news started coming out, and then I added as it was breaking through VWAP. Started covering some as it moved in my favor, and then it put in a really nice consolidation pattern here below VWAP. And once I saw that, I added through the low a day. And I don't know if I did this on purpose or what happened here, but looks like I covered a little bit. But anyways, it ended up breaking down and really trending lower throughout the rest of the day, and made some really good money as I was just trimming it as it was moving into my favor, and caught a really nice leg on this breaking news move. Oftentimes when you get breaking news like this, a lot of the move can happen, instantly. And this one just it gave you plenty of opportunity to get into the trade. and so was able to take full advantage of that and make some good money on this trade. So that was SMH breaking news. NVIDIA, this was on earnings. This one stung. So, good earnings. It was a beat and raise, and the only thing about this was the that chip news that happened the day before. So that was kind of like an overhang on it. But you can see we gapped up. We've been in this consolidation pattern for the last couple of weeks. We were gapping higher on the earnings. So I was confident we'd probably get at least another push higher, maybe into 145, and it just didn't play out. And I was hammering this thing, getting some pretty good size on it. Was able to get some profit off into the 143s, and then I was getting aggressive with these ads, looking for a push through the high day, and then this right up here was a pre-market high. So I was adding in this little area here. I was going to add more through high day, and I was going to add more through pre-market highs to really try and press this and maximize this win. And it ended up just failing, and I had to bail on it once it broke this pivot low here for a decent loss. I think I lost like 7 or 8K on it. Just didn't play out as I would have hoped, but I was happy I was aggressive with it, because this is usually the look I like to see is a failed move of VWAP that's reclaimed for an opening range breakout, and that's what happened here. Got a really aggressive buyer that came in and brought this up, and I saw that once it was reclaiming VWAP, and then it was pushing through high day, and I started hitting the offers pretty hard buying. Got some really good follow through. I was like, this looks great. I took some off here, and then on the pullback, I wanted to see it hold, and I was going to really add some more here. And then, like I was saying, I was going to add more through high day and then more through pre-market highs. So really, if we got a strong second leg, it would have been a really good win. Didn't happen, so ended up taking a decent loss on it, and ended up failing. So happy I took it off here, not low a day, where it would have been an even bigger loss. But if this would have held, and after I stopped out and bounced back, I think I would have considered getting long again, but I think I would have wanted to wait for it to break high day. So that probably would have been the play if this had held and bounced back up and was like consolidating over VWAP and then wanted to make the second leg that way. I probably would have tried again through high day, but it is what it is. Didn't work out. Actually sold off, and then we got some follow through today. And a little bit weaker, bouncing off the 10-day. So we'll see how this plays out, but so far, it's not looking good. All right, what else we got? Oh, this was, what was this? Oh, this was the news on QUBT that they were getting added to the Russell 2000 and I think the 3000. So I wanted to play those, gapping up, had some nice tight consolidation here, had a good level to trade through. On this 14 area if it decided to break out. So I was buying it. We had this first move lower, and then it was starting to get bought pretty aggressively. So I started buying it as it was breaking out. Got some nice follow through, pushed up hard, was able to trim. Had a little bit of an aggressive add here through the high of this candle, kind of like an opening range break through the 2-minute candle. Got a little trim off, and then it rejected really hard. And this ended up actually being a sell the news event. It got absolutely smoked. So once it broke back below VWAP, I cut it, but this was the move here. So we had the news, gapped up, made a strong run, and then rejected hard and ended up selling off the rest of the day. Now we're getting some follow through today. So just a big sell the news event. I probably would have been interested in trying to short it, but that was also when NVIDIA was, when I was trading NVIDIA, so I wasn't going to try and manage two things at once like that. But ended up, I think I walked away with a little bit of money on this. So just couldn't get the follow through. And what else do we have? CRWV. This was this morning actually, yeah. So this was, I was looking for some follow through. Let me pull the chart to give you some context. So actually, let me step back here. So CRWV's been on this big move, right? And we ended up having a really big rejection day. And so today my thought was, if we can break down and break through yesterday's lows, we could get some nice continuation, maybe down into 100 or lower. And that just didn't play out today. But Yesterday I had a decent short setup that I missed. I'm a little bummed about that, but so this was the big move higher in the morning that rejected hard, and we came in, put in a low, and then we had this bouncy ball look going into the afternoon. And what you could have done is we had a really nice clean pivot. I always like to look for multiple taps, like a clear line in the sand, right? And so we had one here, and it did chop around it before it actually broke, but you could have taken it short here, used this the high of this candle around 120 as your stop, and then you could have looked to add through low of day as it was coming through. Or you could have just shorted through low of day as it really started to peel off. Either way, this was a really good look for a bigger move into the afternoon. We had, a few hours of consolidation, had a really clean and cleared, area of support that finally broke, and then it just didn't look back. You could have even added on this consolidation, break it down, and made some really good money. So disappointed I missed this one. I don't know what I was doing. But yeah, just missed it, and really clean leg. This is stuff I like to look for. And in fact, there was another look. Pull up in just a sec, but something to mention before I pull up AI is that these bouncy ball looks don't have to be at low of day. Like, we had the sharp leg higher, and we put in the defined line above low of day, and then it broke down, right? Like, if either one of those could have been played, right? If it was doing the bouncy ball on low day, obviously that would have been a really good look too, but it doesn't have to be. Like, this was bouncing just above low day and ended up working out really well. And I think there was another, was it AI? Let's see, that kind of did the same setup. I don't know if it was AI or, yeah, no, maybe it wasn't AI. I don't know. Anyways, but those are just things to look for when you're trading. Are those really clean, defined levels that have been tested multiple times that can give you a good risk reward entry. All right, and so this morning I was trading my thought was that we were going to break down and get some more continuation, and it just didn't happen. So we got this nice rejection candle here. I was shorting as it was breaking down through it, and got a couple covers off, and then got a really strong buyer that came in and brought it back up, and I cut it there as it was getting bought, and then it just ended up chopping around, ended up coming back and consolidating under VWAP for a lot of the morning, and just a lot of relative weakness. This thing was struggling here. And so I was like, all right, if this breaks through yesterday's close, I'll start some, and then I'll look to add if we can break through low a day. Obviously, didn't get that. It got rebid instantly, and then made the move higher. So just a tricky trade, very choppy, and it just ended up working out. So, anyways, that's been my week. Just been a little bit trickier. So going forward, I'm going to be a lot more selective and really try and focus on the names that are in play, and just looking for, good entries with good risk reward, good structure to the trade, and see if we can get, a nice bounce back to start June. All right. So yeah, this was the last trading day of May. So yeah, June, new month next week. So we'll see if we can get some good trades and kick off the summer with some nice wins. So we'll see how it plays out. But I hope you all have a good weekend, and I'll catch you guys next week. Take care.